Artists and musicians, let me ask you something. And honestly, this might be one of the hardest questions to answer. Are you really just a creative? Or are you actually running a business as well? For those of you that don't know, my name is Unharmed and I've been running this YouTube channel as well as putting original music out for the past 5 or 6 years. Over these past years, I've gathered a bunch of streams. I've gathered millions of streams on my music and my covers. And this was all while finishing high school and graduating from Harvard with a degree in applied math and music. And honestly, throughout all of these years, my relationship with music has changed a lot. There's times where it's definitely more creative, and there's other times where it feels much more like a business. But here's the thing. Throughout that time, I feel like I never actually really sat down and reflected and thought about what I actually wanted out of music. Did I want fame? Did I want to be able to live off of my music? Was I just doing this for the sake of loving my art and expressing myself creatively? I never really reflected on that. But through a lot of reflection, I came to a much clearer answer, and I honestly learned how to go about answering this question. So if you're going through this type of dilemma or thinking about this question yourself, this video is for you. In this video, I want to break down what I call the creative business spectrum, and I want you to think about where you fall on it. So now let's imagine this spectrum. On one end of it, you have the pure creative. This is the person that honestly doesn't care about fame, doesn't care about money, as long as they have true unrestricted creative freedom. And on the other side, you have the business person. This is the person that really makes every calculated move with the goal of selling their art and being very, very profit or goal driven. Now let's dive a bit deeper. Let's talk a bit about the pure creative a bit more. The pure creative is free. They're unrestrained. They create art because they want to. Maybe they're trying to process things that went on in their life and just need to express themselves. They love the process, are really experimental, and don't even care if a project is seen all the way through. They aren't really creating with the outcome in mind, to be honest. They don't care if one person sees their art or 10 million people, as long as what they created was truly authentic. Their strength is their authenticity, and this authenticity is exactly what makes their art really raw and really relatable to people. Now, their weakness might be a lack of structure, and this may not be sustainable in the long run, and this lack of direction can honestly lead to burnout. On the other hand, the business person is goal driven, and in many cases they're very profit driven. Everything is calculated, studied, and structured with the goal of making money or reaching some type of goal. For example, if their goal is to create 15 songs with the hope of increasing streams by 20% by next year, they're gonna make a schedule, execute it, and stick to it. They're also really analytical, which means that they track their data. They're always checking their stats, how many streams, how many listeners, from where, what's their age group, what's their gender breakout, and all of that. And they track this data to make sure that they're getting a return on their investment and that they're targeting the right people. And with that data, they adjust their creative direction accordingly. So for example, say they're working on a rap song, but they find out that their audience for some reason is getting really interested in heavy metal. They're gonna pivot and capitalize on that fact and probably release a heavy metal song. Their strength is that they have clear goals and a framework in place to get them there. But their weakness is that their art is calculated and can sometimes feel inauthentic. This can also lead to burnout. Are you seeing any of these qualities in yourself? Where do you think you fall? Do you fall more on the creative side or more on the business side? To be honest, I feel like if you haven't thought about this, you should grab a pen and paper right now and write down some bullet points and see where you fall on that spectrum. Honestly, both of them have their strengths and their weaknesses. And the good news is that people don't usually fall on the extreme end of either of these. Usually our relationship to music or to art is somewhere in the middle of the spectrum. Sure, we might lean more towards one end over the other, but generally it's not really an extreme like that. And the cool thing too is, like I said earlier, is that this relationship is fluid. So this relationship is always constantly changing. For example, when I first started music and I didn't know what type of art I was making, I was very, very on the creative side. I wasn't even thinking about business. But during a point where I was getting a little bit more streams, I had a viral video, for example, I started taking it a bit more seriously and realizing that I can monetize and I should probably act accordingly. And honestly, there is no right answer to this. The cool thing about our relationship to art is that we get to define it how we want to. And there's gonna be so many people that try and tell you what they think is right and what they think you should or shouldn't be doing. But honestly, like I said, it just depends what your relationship to music, what you want it to be. There's no right answer to this. Now I want to talk a bit about where I fall on that spectrum, just to kind of show you how that journey looked like for me and see if there's any parallels in your own journey with music or just something that you can learn from me sharing my experience. So like I mentioned earlier, when I first got into music, it was pretty creative. Honestly, I just really liked heavy metal at that time. So when I would come home from school, I had a bad day, a teacher pissed me off or something, I would pick up my guitar and just play. I would learn covers, I would learn songs that I just really liked. I wanted to learn this riff. And then I got to the point where I started writing my own riffs too. And that felt super satisfying, just like seeing my art come to life. Then at some point I started having performances. I used to play guitar in my church, and when I had my first performance, I remember being so nervous. I was practicing, but just being on a stage performing for somebody and getting that round of applause at the end just felt super satisfying. Then at some point in high school, I actually opened up a guitar club on my high school, and I would teach people the guitar. I realized that I liked teaching so much, so I opened up a YouTube channel where I did a lot of tutorials. So far in my journey, I talked about what I liked. I liked playing guitar, playing my favorite songs and covers, writing original music, and performing. Those were things about music that I learned that I really liked and still like to this day. Then it got to a point where I started experimenting with remixes. There were a lot of popular rap songs on the radio. I was really into Playboi Carti, Yeat. Well, I don't know if they were on the radio, but they were popular. Playboi Carti, Yeat, Ken Carson. A lot of these newer rappers that I felt guitar just fit in. So I started making remixes. And I had one remix that went viral, and that was Flawless by Yeat. And if you see on my channel, it has millions of streams. It was all over TikTok, and I just love that feeling of having people just listen to my guitar. And I thought it was just a surreal feeling, to be honest. So I kept wanting to replicate that. I felt like I started chasing virality, and this is where that business kicked in. Because I learned that I had a song go viral, but I couldn't monetize off of it because it was using copyrighted music. It was an unofficial remix, right? But the business kicked in, and I kept really trying to get as much streams as possible, do remixes even if I couldn't monetize, so that I can get an audience to listen to my original music. I started putting more effort on my original music and started releasing what I thought people would like. Even if I kind of didn't really want to do it, but I knew it would be a good business move to do it. And honestly, I started getting burnt out. I mentioned the things that I liked earlier, but I started learning the things that I didn't like. I didn't like dealing with this feeling of just chasing virality, and things felt inauthentic. I didn't like putting inauthentic art out, to be honest. I also didn't like feeling super stuck sticking to this schedule. I would get really anxious if I didn't post weekly or bi-weekly or stick to my schedule. So those were things about music that I didn't really like that much. So I honestly started getting burnt out and just kind of stopped posting. I put music to the side for a bit. But then I started reflecting, and a lot of conversations with different people helped me kind of formulate my thoughts when I started to really think about what do I want out of music. And I basically sat down and wrote down what my goals were. So one of my goals, which has been a goal for a long time, is to get 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. My second goal was to just release as much original music as possible and to create. My third was for as many people as possible to listen to my music. And my fourth was to get in touch with the local music community in Los Angeles. So these were really my big goals, and I didn't really know how I was going to do this. I didn't really think about it. But now that I had the goals laid out, now I was in a position to think about it, and that's exactly what I did. So I started thinking about what I liked and what I didn't like and how that related to my goals. So luckily, doing some of the things I love, like performing and writing music, tied directly to my goals. For example, if I wanted to reach as many people as possible, just put out more music, right? Or if I wanted to get in touch with the local Los Angeles community, then I should get out there and perform. But these things that I like probably wouldn't help me reach my goal of 100,000 subscribers. I think it'd be more difficult. So I needed to think about what do I need to do to reach that goal. Realistically, I shouldn't just release original music. Even though I like doing original music a lot more, there's a good amount of covers and remixes that I do like to do, and those are more likely to get more attention from possible subscribers, from viewers, from you guys. So I found a balance. I found that instead of doing any remix out there and just trying to flush out this slop content, even if I didn't like the song, I would stick only to remixes that I did like and doing songs that I did like. So what I'm trying to say is, if doing original music for me was way up here and doing shitty remixes that I didn't like was way down here, there was a middle ground where I could still do original music and do remixes that I did like. So I just had to really think about this and just adjust my direction accordingly. And I just wanted to share my experience because all of our conversations will look different. This conversation with myself is not gonna look exactly like the conversation you have with yours, but I think there's a lot of parallels as far as the approach that I took that can really level set you and help you determine what you want out of music. And remember, again, this isn't set in stone. So there's definitely 1 week where I'm much more creative. I'll just make music all week. And then there's another week where I'm like, okay, I need to think a bit about the business. So let me just catch up on my analytics. Where am I at? Did I have a good week? Did I have a bad week? Let me go out, record some content. Let me reply to some comments and stuff like that. So there's definitely a mix. But I think the biggest takeaway for me was maintaining a healthy mix that didn't burn me out. Because like I said, both ends of the spectrum can burn you out. And again, at the end of the day, there is no right or wrong way to do this. So I honestly just hope that this video helped you. I hope it gave you a bit of insight as to what kind of goes through the mind of an artist. I feel like sometimes my mind is all over the place, but there's times where I feel a lot more level set and confident with where I'm going. And I feel really happy that this past year or so, I've definitely been in that direction more. So if this video helped you, I would love to hear from you. Where do you think you fall on that spectrum? Let me know in the comments below. And honestly, just thanks for watching and for listening to me. I would appreciate it if you gave the video a like and if you subscribed. And yeah, I really hope this helped you. And yeah, I hope you guys do a lot of soul searching. See you guys later. Peace.